mysteries of creation are there.
Up in the sky.
Up in the sky.
The moon and the planets are there. And new hopes for knowledge and peace are there.
Hello and welcome to Your Inner Journey Weather Forecast, in which we utilize archetypal astrology to help you understand the themes and energies that might show up in your psychedelic journeys this week and how to navigate them. This is the week of October 25th through November 1st. So let's have a look at the transits this week using Archetypal Explorer. So here we are. We can see this red transit right here. Mars-Pluto is actually on its downward trend as we start the week off. So the hope is always with a transit that when it ends, we've learned the lesson, we've heard the message that life is giving us through the transit of how to come back into balance with ourselves. So with Mars-Pluto, we'll provide a positive example of the Mars-Pluto energy, one that represents the empowering, activating quality of that energy, using the actress Amy Adams, who was born with Mars-Pluto in a configuration, midpoint configuration with her natal sun. And you can see in this brief video here, very hilarious video from Talladega Nights, she really embodies the Mars-Pluto energy in its positive, activating, empowering form. Okay, so let's look at what other aspects we have here this week. We have a Venus-Neptune square. So Venus-Neptune can be seen in its kind of positive trajectory through the life of the spiritual teacher and leader Ram Dass, who taught a sort of a spiritual path through love and devotion. So Neptune is associated with spirituality, Venus is associated with love, Neptune is associated with devotion. So love, Venus, devotion, Neptune. We can see in the life of Ram Dass, this repeated theme. Ram Dass was born with Venus-Neptune, this repeated theme of love and devotion. So as well, you may encounter that this week, feelings of love that when they well up, they are not so much centered on the ego, but they want to be expressed through kind of a service, a selfless service, a devotion. Okay, so let's look at further transits this week. And so we can see that right around the beginning of the week, we're in between, we're in the trough of two transits that are bracketing this period of time. One over here, that's Sun Pluto, and one over here, that's Sun Saturn. And so last time, actually 2-3 weeks ago, we spoke about the Sun Pluto transit. We used the example of Lord Edward Bulwer-Lytton, who was an author who wrote a novel called Paul Clifford in the 1800s. And it demonstrates, he was born with Sun Pluto, and it demonstrated the Sun Pluto qualities because the novel is about a main character who is a thief, who then gets captured, he gets arrested, and he gets tried in court. And it turns out the judge that's trying him is his biological father. So the Sun Pluto shows up in that interaction in that novel, in the sense that the sun is our sense of identity, the I, the me. The sun can also be associated with the father. And so in that book, and Pluto is associated with the underworld, the deep, the hidden, the powerful, and power struggles. And in that novel, we see that main character, the actual identity at the center of the book, the solar identity of the main character is Plutonic, in that he's an underworld figure. He's a criminal, he's a thief, who then gets arrested and is put on trial and is engaged in a sort of interaction with his father as the judge that involves a kind of a power struggle between the solar identity and the father. Power struggle being Pluto and the solar identity and the father being the sun. Equally, Edward Bulwer-Lytton was actually born with Sun Saturn Pluto. So he was born with the full combination that we're going through now. So how does the Saturn show up? The Saturn shows up in that the main character, a thief, ends up in this kind of power struggle with his father, who's the judge that's judging him. And as the trial concludes, the judge sentences his son, the thief, to death. So that's the Saturn component. The Saturn component makes the condemnation very serious, very real, very having lots of gravity. And so how can this show up in our psychedelic journeys this week, and the psychedelic journeys of your clients? Possibilities of encountering a sense of condemnation of the self. We could feel that maybe we feel that somebody else is condemning us, or we can feel a strong urge or a compulsion to condemn somebody else for their identity. Either way, it's the same energies playing out. And interestingly, Sir Lord Edward Bulwen Lytton, the author of this novel, was also born with another aspect that we have this week. And that is, if we look at Archetypal Explorer and we turn off all the planets here, except for Jupiter and Uranus, and we widen the orb to 15 degrees, we can see that we are actually in a Jupiter-Uranus square. That's what this is. This is a Jupiter-Uranus square. And it's not exact. You can see the line is below the point of exactitude at the top of the graph, but it is active. And so Jupiter and Uranus signifies, Uranus has to do with freedom, and Jupiter has to do with the successful, so together the successful freedom can show up as the get out of jail free card. So interestingly, in the novel Paul Clifford, the main character, the thief, goes to court, is tried by is tried, and his father is the judge. He's condemned by his father to death, but then he actually escapes. He escapes and moves abroad with his cousin and becomes free. And so we can see there that the Jupiter-Uranus is this freedom, the sudden, unexpected leap of freedom. And so keep that in mind, because the Sun, Saturn, Pluto energy can be a very challenging energy to confront collectively and inside ourselves. Collectively, it can be a kind of a cancel culture, wanting to condemn within ourselves. It can be feeling condemned, feeling trapped. Actually, what's happening there is that there's a method to the madness. There's an actual kind of psychospiritual ego death and rebirth that wants to happen through this transit. And the Jupiter-Uranus aspect of it is the freedom, is that in the worst condemnation, in the final death throw, a freedom comes. So very powerful transits this week for psychospiritual ego death rebirth. I hope that this week is a deep week for you, a meaningful week for you, one that bears very meaningful fruits of your efforts, of your along your spiritual path. If you'd like to see how these transits transit your own natal birth chart and how they show up personally in your life, how these larger world transits we've been talking about show up personally for you, you can click on the links below. You can click on the link below for the free trial of Archetypal Explorer and see how this week looks for you personally. If you'd like to understand how archetypal astrology works and how it can reveal your superpowers, you can also click on the link below for the free copy of the ebook, The Paradigm Shift Support Manual, which explains how archetypal astrology works and how it can reveal your superpowers. So have a wonderful week. Have a very meaningful, profound week, and we look forward to seeing you next week on Your Inner Journey Weather Forecast. Thank you so much.